By the mid-1970s, Robert Monroe had largely ceased his unguided physical explorations. His work shifted inward, replaced by systemic, clinically recorded instruction sessions conducted within an academic laboratory setting. Guided by a non-human intelligence he identified as the inspect, Monroe began auditing human memory. Together, they investigated a specific mechanical problem, the biological necessity of extreme human emotion and pain. One early session recovered a childhood memory Monroe had entirely forgotten. As a young boy, he was struck by lightning and knocked unconscious. The inspect viewed the strike as a mechanism to bury a momentary recall of his pre-human identity beneath a flood of physical information. Sensory information acts as a filter. It is an intentional mechanism designed to deliberately confine and subtly alter the larger cosmic life process. A second audited memory placed a young Monroe alone with his mother's antique Victrola. With each play of the record, he experienced a profound, overwhelming surge of internal energy. In his clinical recounting of the event, Monroe noted the sensation felt better than anything he had ever known, yet it amplified to a point verging closely on intense physical pain. The InSpec offered an objective assessment of this threshold. The acceptance of pain, they stated, is simply a condition of joy. This diagram illustrates the mechanism. The human body is a finite container. What we register as pain is the mechanical anguish of a physical structure attempting to hold an energetic force expanding beyond its capacity. Stripped of moral weight, extreme human suffering is redefined. It is strictly a structural limitation of the human machine encountering high-frequency energy. To understand the ultimate purpose of this energetic containment, the sessions shifted to a review of historical past life memory regressions. One case followed a desert traveler named Shola. Dying of illness and starvation after being turned away from a settlement, Shola maintained an unbreakable familial bond through his final hours. Another recalled 3 ancient warriors fighting side by side, bound by a battlefield loyalty that entirely superseded their own individual survival instincts. A third case examined a medieval priest ordered to carry out a human sacrifice, who instead exercised acute moral agency by refusing to complete the ritual. These disparate lives were not audited for their historical context. They were selected strictly for their identical emotional output. These disparate lives funneled into a singular, measurable radiation. The inspect defined this output as Loosh, or love, the essential fuel of the cosmic learning process. In this framework, the human condition serves a specific cosmic utility, functioning as a biological transformer for this Loosh radiation. Generating this energy is only the baseline requirement. The subsequent evolutionary phase demands strict conscious control over it. A final clinical exercise revisited a childhood trauma, Monroe's dog Steamboat being struck and killed by a passing vehicle. In his baseline state, the young Monroe had been overwhelmed by unguided, helpless grief. Now, reliving the event, he exerted calm, deliberate control, acting to ease the animal's suffering. The inspect noted the clinical difference. Uncontrolled emotion overwhelms the biological system, while directed emotion enhances it. Emotion is ineffective when left as a passive reaction. It only becomes a driving, creative force for growth when it is consciously directed. The inspect concluded that once the system achieves this state of directed emotional output, the physical drives that fueled the human machine become a minor note in an infinite chord. The sessions culminated in a single event. Monroe described his consciousness accelerating rapidly through a radiant, non-physical conduit. Inside this conduit, a mechanical process occurred. He was joined by dozens of identical energy waveforms, aligning and locking perfectly into phase to exponentially increase the amplitude of a single master wave. Merging into a symmetrical geometric grid of light, the collective entity explicitly identified itself. They were a single inspec. Monroe had communicated with fragments of his larger identity all along, remembering more of the whole with every addition, enveloping the earth from a distance. The fragmented human consciousness undergoes earthly suffering for a single reason: to generate enough emotional energy to reconcile with its total cosmic self, which monitors the entire process from outside of time. The termination of the session was instantaneous, jarring Monroe back into the physical reality of his quiet domestic study room. He felt an immediate, urgent need to document the revelation on his reel-to-reel recorder, capturing the knowledge before his physical mind could obscure it. He wrote down a final creed detailing the ultimate trade-offs of physical existence. For those who would die, there is life. For those who would dream, there is reality. For those who would hope, there is knowledge. For those who would grow, there is eternity. Every instance of extreme human suffering, profound joy, and deep aloneness serves a purpose. It is a highly calculated, mechanical necessity for eternal growth.